U.S. presidential debate, communication styles and techniques. I'm Brian McMillan. I'm the senior trainer here at AAC Global. Today's webcast is brought to you by AAC Global and TechMill. Together, we're providing language training, translations, interpretations, and multimedia communication creation and localization services throughout the Nordic region. Before we get started, a couple of technical points I want to make. If you have a question or a comment during today's program, we welcome those and we ask that you please write those in the chat window located in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. I'll be monitoring that today along with our guest, and we'll take your questions as we receive them or at an appropriate time. If you experience technical difficulties such as poor audio quality or the loss of the video feed, we suggest that you sign out of the space and back into it. That normally takes care of any problem you might have. A bit about me before we get started. My background, I'm an American citizen, and I've been living here in Finland for the last 14 years, assisting business and government professionals in getting their message through. Before coming to Finland, I worked within the newspaper, radio, and television industries as a publisher and also as an on-air broadcaster with a radio talk show and also as a newscaster. We're joined today by Pia Pakarinen. Hello, Pia.
Hello.
Pia is the director of the Helsinki Region Chamber of Commerce. She is responsible for local government relations, and Pia is also a member of the Helsinki City Council. So again, welcome to you, and thank you for taking part in today's program.
Thanks.
Our
Excited
webcast.
To be here.
Well, we want to get the Finnish perspective to what we're about to see, and what we're about to see is the performances, if we can call them that, from the U.S. presidential debates. There were 3 debates that took place leading up to next week's, actually not next week, we're about a week and a half away from the presidential elections, November 8th. I've already voted, so I feel as if the election's taken place for me anyway. I absentee voted. So I did want to state before we get started, there's 2 things that we're not going to be looking at today. We are looking at communication style and techniques, but we're not here to judge the candidates' political positions or their personal characters. We'll leave that up to others. We are going to discuss, given time, Pia's feelings about and observations about possible U.S.-Finnish business environment, depending on which of the candidates may win, if you don't mind my asking that a little bit later. But as I said, we're taking a look at the 3 debates, and we're going to do this with the use of video clips. We have a number of video clips today, and we'll begin with the first debate and our first video clip. So we'll let you watch these clips. They're about 30 seconds each. And at the conclusion of it, we would like to get your feeling about what you hear and what you see taking place. So you're welcome to make comments or questions in the chat window. Pia, of course, will be telling me what she feels and thinks, and I certainly will be doing that for you as well, too. So to give you the first of these are the opening remarks in the first debate by candidate Clinton. So here we are, our first video clip.
Finally, we tonight are on the stage together, Donald Trump and I. Donald, it's good to be with you. We're going to have a debate where we are talking about the important issues facing our country. You have to judge us. Who can shoulder the immense, awesome responsibilities of the presidency? Who can put into action the plans that will make your life better? I hope that I will be able to earn your vote on November 8th.
Oh, what did you see? What did you hear?
Well, I think she was quite empathetic, and this was a nice way to start. It's good to be here with you, Donald, which she doesn't repeat.
No, I don't think we hear that from either of them after this.
No, they shaked hands before this, but they didn't shake hands in the other debates.
Okay.
I noticed,
okay.
So. Oh, but she was eagerly waiting for.
A couple of words that popped into my head right away, looking at the right-hand side of the screen here in candidate Clinton, I felt that she was confident and comfortable. Mr. Trump, and in fact, with the look that's on his face right now, all I see is doubt. He's very skeptical and he's
Suspicious.
doubting and suspicious as well, too. Yes, very suspicious, very doubtful. Okay, let's go on then. We'll bring up our second video that we have for you. This one is Donald Trump's opening remarks.
Under my plan, I'll be reducing taxes tremendously, from 35% to 15% for companies, small and big businesses. That's going to be a job creator like we haven't seen since Ronald Reagan. It's going to be a beautiful thing to watch. Companies will come, they will build, they will expand, new companies will start, and I look very, very much forward to doing it. We have to renegotiate our trade deals, and we have to stop these countries from stealing our companies and our jobs.
Well, I have to say, if I may, Pia, the body language here was so strong from candidate Trump, and it was so much a use of tone, pause, stress. It was really strong.
Yes, we didn't quite see the hands, but he was doing very heavy hand talking at the same time. So he was emphatic. Yes, yeah, pointing out.
Emphatic being that it's my way or the highway, only my way. That's it. Yeah. And in fact, he used the first person pronoun, and if our audience will note this throughout the video clips that we have, candidate Trump often uses I, me, my, and mine in talking about the topics that are being discussed. Whereas candidate Clinton is more inclusive. She uses the we and us and together and our. So it's a point for all of us when speaking publicly to be very much aware of the pronouns that we use. Is it all about you or is it about your topic? And are we in this together?
Yeah, well, he didn't waste any time on courtesy. He started under my plan and straight to what he wanted to say.
Yes, made his point very strong, very clear, and as you say, direct. Yeah. Okay, in our third clip, we're still in the first debate. And in the third clip that we have, this is candidate Trump on taxes, which is, I guess before we show you this, I will state that in the United States, private citizens are not required to report their taxes publicly. I don't know if that's the case here in Finland, but in the United States, public reporting of your taxes is not required unless you are a public official or running for public office. And so this is why the topic comes up in our presidential debates, because Donald Trump has not made his taxes public. All other candidates for the office of president have done that in the past, and currently candidate Clinton, I almost said President Clinton.
Well, there's been one president.
Yes, there's been one President Clinton already. So candidate Clinton has already given her official tax statement, but candidate Trump has not. So just to give you a little bit of background information about taxes. So here's what Trump has to say about his taxes.
I will release my tax returns against my lawyer's wishes when she releases her 33,000 emails that have been deleted. As soon as she releases them, I will release my tax returns, and that's against my lawyers. They say don't do it. I will tell you this. No, in fact, watching shows, reading the papers, almost every lawyer says you don't release your returns until the audit's complete. When the audit's complete, I'll do it.
Wow. Yeah, please go first.
Well, I'm almost speechless, but well, he was aggressive, forceful, big gestures. He was angry in speaking, so
extremely
really,
defensive. Yes, extremely defensive.
Yes. Well, I have to say anyway that you wouldn't have like still pictures like that in the Finnish debates in the debates in Finland, while I think the Finnish politicians like to keep more, calm than both of the candidates, but he is really expressive in his face.
And as we can see, at least from my perspective, on the right-hand side of the screen, candidate Clinton is quite entertained by this.
Yeah.
She knew this was the reaction that would be coming from this. Of course, Donald Trump is borderline shouting. It's one thing to project your voice when speaking publicly. It's another to shout. I often, in working with the clients that I have on their presentation skills, talk to them about voice projection. Voice projection comes from breathing deeply and taking air into your lungs and having that power your words out, not volume, but it is the air that you draw into your lungs and then it pushes out the words. I used to, in my early days of broadcasting, used to have a sign that I put up on the microphone that said, breathe, because I often forgot to breathe. And many people speaking do that. They forget to breathe. Mr. Trump is breathing, but he's also yelling at me. I also noticed that he doesn't finish his sentences.
No.
In this particular clip, there were 3 sentences he never finished. My lawyers advised me, and then he just stopped at advised me and he went on to something else. Not sure what he was trying to do.
The emails.
And
changing the
when
subject.
she releases her 33,000, I see that Adriana has a question for it. Is it common that U.S. politicians are so expressive? It's not necessarily common. I mean, if we go back in the history of the country and the presidents who have served the country in that office, not all were very expressive. Some were quietly spoken people. Some were softly spoken people. Some were, as if I can borrow a word that Pia had for us, emphatic. It's my way or not at all. But I wouldn't say that it's common. Regrettably, it's been quite common in the current election season that we have, not only with these 2 candidates, but with other candidates for other offices. They're mimicking this sort of behavior, and I find it, as an American, I find it very disturbing to me.
Yeah, but it's also nowadays more common in Europe, the populist movement where the politicians want to be very emphatic.
And maybe some of our audience has some ideas as to why this is happening in our world today, why people are communicating by nearly shouting their messages at each other or being so loudly expressive, even with their body language. But let's go on to the next. The next video clip is an interesting one. I had to bring this one in because of our neighbors our close neighbors to the east. Of course, that being Russia. So the topic of Russia came up in the debates, and let's see how the candidates address that.
There's no doubt now that Russia has used cyber attacks against all kinds of organizations in our country, and I am deeply concerned about this. I know Donald's very praiseworthy of Vladimir Putin, but Putin is playing a really tough...
Look at the mess that we're in. As far as the cyber, I agree to parts of what Secretary Clinton said. We should be better than anybody else, and perhaps we're not. I don't think anybody knows it was Russia that broke into the DNC. She's saying Russia, 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 but maybe it was. I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay?
I don't know where to begin. Go ahead, Pia, please.
Well, he was suspicious. I don't know what was the sound he made when listening to...
When he leaned forward and he said, no. An interruption, and one almost, from my American perspective, so adolescent. Adolescent meaning, before you become an adult. Something you would expect. I don't want to put a bad label on teenagers, but it's almost teenage-like, childlike, if you will, but not in a nice way. I couldn't believe what I saw when I first saw it.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, but well, she tries to keep in the subject.
Yes, she does. And if we can see again, looking at the right of the screen here in the last look on her face, she is, I think, like the audience, in disbelief over what she's just heard.
Yeah, and at this point she stopped talking, so they didn't talk over. I think that in the end or the other debates she just can't keep.
Yeah, they do talk over each other, and we have some examples of that. Yeah. Something else that I'll ask our audience to notice in this is that Donald Trump uses a technique that's used by many public speakers, and it's one that you can use when you're speaking, again, either in a presentation situation or maybe you're speaking in a meeting, and you want to make your point and you want to make it memorable. It's called tripling. He used the word Russia, Russia, Russia. In fact, one of our former Finnish political representatives, a minister, who I will not name, went to New York City to the United Nations, and when making a point about the threats to the security of this country as it regards cyber threats, I believe, he used this effect very, very much to a memorable advantage. And he said, Russia, Russia, Russia. Another example we can take out of ancient history, Julius Caesar. I came, I saw, I conquered, tripling the pronoun. John F. Kennedy, since we're talking about the presidential office here, John Kennedy in his inaugural address said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Now, in follow-up to that speech that President Kennedy gave, he often repeated that message, adding a third to that. He'd say, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what you can do for your country, and ask often. So ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do, and ask often. So ask, ask, ask. That's called tripling. It can make your message very memorable. I'm going to remember, I don't know if I'll remember Donald Trump's Russia, Russia, Russia. There are many other things I'll remember about him, but it does work.
Yeah, but I have to add that this kind of talking out of turn would not be accepted in the Finnish debates, so that would be perceived very negatively.
And I have to say too, it was a shock to me. I've not seen this happen very often, even in the American politics. Another comment here, Adriana asked the question, it seems that his style is appealing to many Americans. Why? Oh, if I could answer that. Oh, if I could answer that. Okay, again, I'm trying not to comment on the politics, but I will give you a little bit of my insight as an American. And it's very difficult to speak for a country of 320 million plus people. I'm certainly not representative of the whole country, but I feel that candidate Trump is quite appealing to many Americans because of the state of fear that has existed since 9/11, the attacks on the United States back in 2001, September of 2001. That many Americans have felt very insecure about their place in the world and the security that they have within their own borders. So they're looking for someone to blame for these feelings that they have. And I think that Donald Trump likes to blame everybody for everything except for himself. That's about all that I'll say, because I'm sure I'm going to upset some Americans by what I just said, but hey, so be it. Yeah.
But I think the secret is the same as for any populist style of speaking people.
Great word, populist.
Populist, yes. Because it sounds good for some people, and he probably sounds like a nice guy to go to have a beer with. While perhaps Hillary doesn't sound like a nice person to go to have a beer with.
I would pass on that invitation for beer or anything else with candidate Trump. That's just my own personal feeling, but I said I wouldn't get too much into the personal thing. Okay, let's go on to clip number 5. This is the last clip that we have in the first debate, and this is on the topic of women. I didn't bring up the topic of women in the second debate, but this is from the first.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a man who has called women pigs, slobs, and dogs, and someone who has said pregnancy is an inconvenience to employers, who has said women don't deserve equal pay unless they do as good a job as men. This election's really up to you. It's not about us so much as it is about you and your families and the kind of country and future you want. So I sure hope you will get out and vote as though your future depended on it, because I think it does.
Mr. Trump, very quickly, the same question. Will you accept the outcome as the will of the voters?
I want to make America great again. I want to make America great again. I'm going to be able to do it. I don't believe Hillary will. The answer is, if she wins, I will absolutely support her.
Well, here we go again. I have to point out the first person pronoun. I will make America great again. I, me, mine, mine. It's all about me, folks. That's what the candidate is saying to me. So I'm turning off to his message. Before I go any further, we have a comment here from Julio, who said that he believes that it's appealing to many Americans because he is the silent majority speaking on behalf of them. This in answer to the question that Adriana asked earlier, why is he so appealing? It may be. I could not believe in this clip the amount of insulting words that were attributed to the candidate, and that he didn't take ownership of any of this.
Well, on the other hand, Hillary Clinton is a little bit like self-righteous here.
Yes.
So perhaps he may even got some sympathy for that because she's so sure of herself at the moment. So probably look at her face at the moment.
Very from a high position.
Yeah.
The word came into my mind before about candidate Trump that he was condescending, meaning sort of looking down at people as if he's up here and much greater in intelligence and in everything else about him. But the look from candidate Clinton also gives me that feeling that she feels she's on much higher ground here, and she is in some of the topics.
Yeah, but she shouldn't have perhaps shown it so well. But I think because the first two debates seemed to me more like a trial than a debate, because there were a lot of like a debate like this, so that we know that you have been doing from both sides. But even persons sitting in the audience, and you know, this person is here, she can tell you how this is. So a little bit like self-righteous from both sides.
Let's go on to the second debate, since we've talked a bit about that second debate. But I try to stay off the topic of the candidate's personal behavior. This is the opening of the debate. Keep in mind the opening we had to the first debate. Now we have the opening of the second debate. Let's read the body language in this one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican nominee for President, Donald J. Trump, and the Democratic nominee for President, Hillary Clinton.
Body language. Donald Trump, heavy footsteps. Hillary Clinton, lots of smiles. I'm not here to harm anyone. And of course, both of them didn't even want to get close to each other. Is this at all Finnish like?
No, I think shaking hands would be obligatory in a situation like this.
Yes. What about if you don't shake hands? What kind of message is being sent? Is it the same message that we get from these two people?
I think so. So they don't like each other and being impolite. That kind of message.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the second one then, because there wasn't much to say. There was nothing said there.
Well, it was more like a beginning of a show than a debate.
Well, as you had said before, maybe trial. Beginning of the trial. Well, in the seventh clip that we're looking at here, this is 7 of we have 11 clips for you. This is the 7th one. We take a look at their use of the stage. So I want you to watch how they address the audience and each other with their bodies.
Sounds like you're in the business or you're aware of people in the business. You know that we are now, for the first time ever, energy independent. We are not dependent upon the Middle East, but the Middle East still controls a lot of the prices. So the price of oil has been way down, and that has had a damaging effect on a lot of the oil companies, right? We are, however, producing a lot of natural gas, which serves as a bridge to more renewable fuels, and I think that's an important transition.
Okay, what do you say about candidate Clinton's body language?
Well, she addresses directly the person who posed the question, so she's kind of intimate with the person who she's talking to.
Yeah, very much so. She moves in close. She makes very strong eye contact, which is very important. Eye contact is one of the most basic forms of communication that we can have between one human and another. So always keep in mind, making eye contact is important with your audience, whether it's 1 or 100 or even thousands of people. Just pick a place and make eye contact with it. It's a very important part of your communication skills and getting your message through. Donald Trump threw out this clip, and he's now out of the frame, but he was constantly moving back and forth. And in the, I said, in my mind, sort of like in the shadows, and almost a dark presence by doing it. This is something too that when we're presenting, if we're giving a presentation in cooperation with a colleague, you want to make sure that if your colleague's speaking, that you're not becoming the focal point while they're trying to speak and connect with the audience. And movement will do that. So if you can take a seat, if you can't take a seat, just stand to the side and stand still. It can be very distracting. There's another comment here. Hillary Clinton is on the higher ground because she's prepared for the flood. Interesting comment. I'm not sure what flood we're talking about, but Julio, since you capitalize that, it sounds like it might be a biblical flood. And let's hope not. Let's go on to the next clip that we have, because I've got to keep aware of time here. So this is our 8th clip, and in this one, this is an audience question. It's actually at the close of the second debate. So their response.
Good evening. My question to both of you is, regardless of the current rhetoric, would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
It was a great question.
Mr. Trump, would you like to go first?
Well, I certainly will.
Well, I consider her statement about my children to be a very nice compliment. I don't know if it was meant to be a compliment, but it is a great. I'm very proud of my children.
So I have to, again, comment first on this. The debate MC, the person controlling the debate, she has said, Mr. Trump, would you like to go first? And what did he do? He did nothing. He said nothing. I ask you, if you watch a recording of this moment again, and you can play this back later, we're going to have this recording up on the internet for you of this webinar. Look at the amount of time between when he was asked, would he like to go first? It was exactly 3 seconds. I say this time and time again. If you want to make an American nervous or think that something's gone wrong, give them 3 seconds of silence in a business setting or in a public speaking setting. That's how long it takes an American to become uncomfortable with silence. So because Trump didn't say anything, Clinton, candidate Clinton, she showed right away, well, I'm going to be a leader here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to comment. Your feeling?
Yeah, I mean, mine too, because I remember this discussion while she wanted to have a nice comment on his children, which I thought it was positive. He thought also it was positive, but and then he went on to say something about her stamina, which was also a nice comment actually.
Yes.
So both of them did quite well here, and I think it was a friendly moment for them. One of the few here.
What about this topic of getting personal when speaking publicly, either in politics or otherwise? Is that common in?
No, I think that was well. That's a good question, because normally a person wouldn't go to the details of his family to comment on the subject. So that was a little bit out of context.
Yeah. I thought for a moment she might comment on his suits or something like that. Then I realized that candidate Clinton has made a point that many of candidate Trump's suits and ties are made outside of the United States in other countries, and it's been a little
so
bit
it might also be a suggestion to that point that she didn't find out anything else than to praise him for his children.
Yes.
So kind of not so nice actually.
The next bit of video that we have was the most shocking for me. It was on the topic of abortion. And before I show this, I'll just mention that the topic of abortion in the United States is a very, very difficult one because of we as Americans having very strong religious beliefs, whether they be Christianity or whether they be in the Islamic faith or the Jewish faith or whatever they may be. We're very strong about those, and we don't hide our religious feelings very much. And abortion is a very, we'll call it, hot topic in that regard. So here's what the candidates had to say about abortion in this clip.
I do not think the United States government should be stepping in and making those most personal of decisions. So you can regulate if you are doing so with the life and the health of the mother taken into account.
Mr. Trump, your reaction, and particularly on this issue of late-term partial birth
Well,
abortion.
I think it's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother.
I didn't know what to say when he said rip the baby. Shocking. I could not believe the language used here at this point in time.
Well, he wanted to shock you.
Rip in the English language in this context is violent. It's graphically violent. And I believe that the candidate Trump chose that word for that reason. He wanted to put what's going right through my body right now is actually chills from him having used that word. Candidate Clinton, in the way that she spoke, I felt there was firmness and strength in her conveying what her beliefs were, that the government has no business being involved in a person's personal business. And that was just her expressing her strong feelings.
Yeah. I think in this third debate, she doesn't smile much. So she's a little bit of perhaps already bored by the situation.
Throughout the whole debate.
Yeah, but I have to say about this topic, or the Second Amendment, the gun subject, which was discussed in this third debate, both are so out of the world for Finland. That's really,
the Second Amendment, for those of you watching not familiar with it, in the Constitution of the United States, the Second Amendment guarantees the right of all citizens to carry or to own weapons. We say to bear weapons. It means that you can have one. And it's been also very contentious subject. The word contentious may sound like to contend or a contest. And in fact, that's where it comes from. Something that is contentious means that you can argue about it. We use this word within political and circles and in governance as a respectful way of saying that we disagree. We don't want to say that we have an argument taking place. We have a contention. That's the noun for it. Contentious, that's the adjective for it. And to contend, that's the verb for it. So it's a very contentious topic, abortion and gun rights. It's also a comment I have to pass on here. I think Adriana says, I think that Mr. Trump likes to play the victim of the current situation in the United States. Maybe therefore so many Americans feel represented by him. It's possible they do feel that they're a victim. And Julio agrees with Adriana there.
And he uses very concrete expressions. He wanted to shock you, and he succeeded. You were shocked.
That's one of the moments of this whole political campaign that I will not forget. And it's all about the language that was used. Going on to our next to last clip that we have. This is regarding the economy, something that I wish they would talk more about. But here's what the candidates had to say about the economy.
We've got to get back to rebuilding the middle class, the families of America. That's where growth will come from. That's why I want to invest in you. I want to invest in your family. And I think that's the smartest way to grow the economy, to make the economy fairer. And we just have a big disagreement about this. It may be because of our experiences. You know, he started off with his dad as a millionaire. I started off with my dad as a small businessman.
We've heard this before.
I think it's, you know, it's a difference that affects how we see the world and what we want to do with the economy.
Time.
Thank you, Hillary. Could I just respond?
Well, no.
Because
sir,
I did
we're running out of
disagree with
time.
Ronald Reagan very strongly on trade. I disagreed with him.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, she doesn't smile here anymore. So
no,
she's
smiles are gone.
Well, she's tired. But she was also emphatic here, so also trying to point out everything singly.
So emphatic meaning strongly making your point and being firm on it, not yielding, not giving any ground.
And also she didn't care when he was talking out of turn. She just continued. So she was decisive.
I'm often asked about the American tendency to interrupt when another person's speaking. I know that here in Finland you're taught from very youngest ages that it's impolite to interrupt. And in fact, in the United States, in my growing up, in my education, and as I know in most Americans' education, we're taught the same thing. But we're also taught that we're a country of a large population, a huge population, 320 plus million people. And if you want to be heard, you have to speak up to be heard. But you need to use your interruptions politely and strategically and tactfully in order to be heard. There was nothing strategic in these interruptions. There was nothing polite about these interruptions, and far from being tactful. So interruption is something that we do use in being able to be heard, and we do use in interactive discussions that we have with our colleagues today in the business world, and you must speak up. It's not always effective to sit quietly and listen to what's being said and then say something at the conclusion. We look for interaction today, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And this was everything was wrong about this by both of them from my perspective.
But I think also the conversation or the debates, all the debates are much meaner or nastier because I wouldn't expect especially in a debate for presidential elections, I wouldn't expect anyone to go interfere in the you have inherited a lot of money from your father. It would be very impolite, well, that's striking here that you don't. Well, if you have a chance to go to the other person's personal life, you will do it.
Yes.
And in Finland, that wouldn't be accepted.
Well, Adriana asked, how do you interrupt politely? Well, first and foremost, you would excuse yourself, pardon yourself, or apologize for the interruption. That's the first thing that I can say about it. There are other techniques that can be used too. We don't have time to talk about all those, but that's the first way to go about it. The final clip that we have for you today is the final words of the candidates. So let's hear what they had to say in closing.
Well, I would like to say to everyone watching tonight, that I'm reaching out to all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, because we need everybody to help make our country what it should be, to grow the economy, to make it fairer, to make it work for everyone. We need your talents, your skills, your commitment, your energy, your ambition.
We are going to make America strong again, and we are going to make America great again, and it has to start now. We cannot take 4 more years of Barack Obama, and that's what you get when you get her.
Well, I will say to candidate Trump's credit, he finally found the pronoun that included everyone. He said, we are going to make America great again. We are going to do this and we are going to do that. And they are bad people.
Well, I think I have been in sales, and one of the golden rules is that never mention the opponent. So she was talking to the all Americans, looked in the eye, and was not talking about the opponent at all. But he didn't. Well, he didn't follow the rule. He wanted to mention also the opponent. So that's a little bit different.
So she really was talking to her audience.
Yes, yes.
And what did you feel about his statement? Was he talking to the audience, or was he just making a statement?
I think he used his 1 minute. He used 45 minutes to contact the audience, but then 50 minutes to blame the opponent. So I think that was not wise.
yeah, not a wise use of his 1 minute of time. Pia, let me ask you at this point in time, what would you feel regarding how the candidates got their message through? What were some of the words that came into your mind?
Well, I'm sure that actually, well, one of the aims or purposes of these kinds of debates is to make the faith stronger in those who have already chosen their candidates, and I'm sure that both did it well. Yeah. So they were performing like they were expected to perform. So I think in a way they did both, but both did well. But if there were somebody who was still in doubt, perhaps not so well.
I put on the screen now a list of words that you and I, in preparation for our webinar today, came up with based on our feelings. And some of the words we've used today, we talked about being emphatic here on Donald Trump's side of the list. I added aggressive, condescending. I used that earlier, talking down to people. There was confidence on both sides. Confrontational, looking for a fight, dominating, controlling. Again, the emphatic, it's my way or the highway, only me. Forceful, and I understand that pompous is a word that you have a similar word in Finnish. Okay. Provocative meaning trying to shock you. I found Trump to be self-righteous. You gave me this word earlier, self-assured, and she did seem to be quite confident. It goes well with confidence as well too, and a few other words that are up there as well. I'd like to know a bit about how our audience thinks about what they've seen. So I'm going to ask you all now to take a quick poll with us, if I can do that, and I believe that I can do that. The question to you is, which of the two candidates was most successful in getting their message through? So we've opened this survey. You're welcome to respond to it as we speak now. Which of the candidates was most successful in getting their message through? In fact, we begin to see a strong response for candidate Clinton. Up to 31% of you believe that Donald Trump hasn't broken double digits yet. He's at 2%, feel that he was able to get his message through. Candidate Clinton is jumping up to nearly 50% of the audience. Nearly 50% of the audience feels that she was able to get her message through. And it looks like candidate Trump has stopped at about 2%.
But still, there are many who haven't been able to decide. So that's probably the situation also in the U.S.
A very good point that you make. I should have left that one there too. Which of you are undecided? So let's just close this and share the results, then there you have the results. So I tend to agree with this. I tend to agree with this. Questions and comments, any further questions and comments from our audience, we'd welcome those. We're about at the closing for today. So I have one more question that I want to ask to you. One more question in the form of a poll. So here that is. There are actually 3 questions in this poll. Did you find the webinar topic relevant? Was the information presented directly applicable to your work? Does it apply to your work? And would you like to improve your presentation skills? To improve our presentation skills as well too. Let's say that that's your presentation skills, okay? Pia, I want to thank you. Pia Pakarinen, Director of the Helsinki Region Chamber of Commerce, for being with us today. I want to thank our audience for spending time with us today, taking time out of your day. I guess in closing, I can say let's wait and see what happens on November 8th when the Americans choose who their next leader will be. Any closing comments, Pia?
No, thank you. I want to thank you because it was interesting to see and also see the differences in the debates.
Yeah, it's always interesting to take a closer look at these things and see exactly what others see as well too. Again, I want to thank all of you for attending this webinar. Together, we're getting your message through. That's AAC Global and TechMill. If you'd like to contact us, our web addresses are there. And please feel free to contact me personally at the close of this webinar. You'll be getting a follow-up email, and you can contact me directly, and you'll be able to get a recording of this as well too. Thank you, Pia.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Have a great day.